Hello everyone, welcome to the Saul's Journey podcast. This is going to be a place where we talk about our adventures in life, how we achieve a fulfilling life. If I'm going to look to the notes all the time, but it's a space for breaking free from limiting beliefs, a place where we can share stories on how to achieve our best life, live the best life that we can, share the craziest of stories, answer cool questions. Hopefully, I would like to get to a point where I can interview cool people about their life, philosophy, what makes a good life. Who knows? I'm excited that you're joining with me. If you are listening to this, please send me a DM on Instagram at Saul's Journey or write in the comment section of wherever you're watching this. I don't even know where I'm going to post it yet. It might be the Saul's Journey YouTube channel. Who knows? You're going to have to bear with me because I'm still very new to this, and it just said that I was talking too loud then, so I'm going to try and not do what I just did. But yeah. Also, if you notice that I'm looking, if you're watching this, I'm going to be looking here, which is below where the camera is. It's all very new. But yes, today we are going to start actually at the beginning, which is my story. We're going to talk about me for once. Shock. I'm Saul. What my background is, where I've got to now, and hopefully where I'm going. Yeah, so about me. My name is Saul. I am Saul Hope. Don't know if you need to know my last name, but now you do. I'm 25. I am a human who by trade makes films and does photography. I'm really into surfing. I recently picked that up 3 years ago. I live in the southwest of England in a place called Cornwall. I moved here 3 years ago, and the story behind that we will get into. But yeah, about me, I am a trained yoga teacher. I have been self-employed pretty much my entire adult life. Come from a Buddhist family. Yeah, what else is it that you need to know? Have a terrible sense of humor. That's also another one. But yeah, let's keep going into it. So my story. And what's my dream before we go into the story? My dream is to have a complete plan and I want to be able to squeeze as much out of life as possible. I see these people who seem to be able to go everywhere and live the best life and talk to the coolest people and make the most fulfilling stuff. And I think that's really cool. And I'd like to be a person that does that and also be able to look back at my life and be like, okay, I've done all these things. And not only that, a really important thing that's been missing is helping people. I think serving people is a really good way to get that sort of fulfillment feeling. But before we go more into the future, let's start with the past. So my name's Saul, as I said, 25, now self-employed filmmaking, living in Cornwall, surfing whenever I can. How did we get here? So I grew up in a place called North Wales. That's technically a lie. I actually was born in Manchester in England, but when I was 3, I moved to North Wales. So I grew up in North Wales. I grew up on an island called Anglesey. Wales has an island, fun fact. It does have a bridge. It has 2 bridges. So it technically doesn't count as an island, but we don't really, there is a massive water in between it. Fun fact, it's a really deadly massive water. It's called the Menai Straits. Shout out my people from North Wales if you're watching this. But yeah, I grew up in North Wales. And Anglesey, specifically the area I'm at, is well known for being so boring. There is not much going on there. It's a stunning place. It's more well known for being beautiful. Snowdon or Ardwyddfa is the most stunning mountain in Wales and England. I'm not going to say Scotland because Scotland's got some pretty good mountains, but Wales is very known for its beauty. It's also very known for its emptiness. And as a human myself, that is quite reliant on human connection and being interested in things and getting the day-to-day. Growing up as a kid, I was very bored. I also lived in the middle of nowhere. It was a 40-minute drive to get to the nearest town, and that town was Bangor, by the way, if you know where that is. It's not a great town. Sorry. Shout out Bangor. Bangor's great, but not in the grand scheme of things, it's not New York City. So also, as an only child, I was very isolated and very bored. Very understimulated all the time. I would later learn that I probably have ADHD. Can't say that for official because I've not been diagnosed. Really don't care to either. Really not on my to-do list of things. But yeah, early on in life, I felt very bored all the time, stuck in a cycle of struggle. I'm talking like from 5 years old onwards, like just perpetually understimulated, bored in a very small school, kind of like thinking, is this it? I mean, like even at like 12, I remember being like, is this it? Like, is this what life is? You just freaking... And that was like around my age was when YouTube was starting to get popular. So I'd like go on YouTube and be like, or watch all these people and be like, oh my God, PewDiePie and all these Smosh, be like living the best life, like doing the coolest things. And like, I'd watch Bear Grylls and all these other adventurers. Fun fact, Bear Grylls lived down the road to me. He owned his own island. He still does. Yeah, wild. Anyway, yeah, when I was that age, I was really frustrated and I just kind of like never put myself out there as well because I was in such an isolated, small environment. There was an attitude of teachers in my schooling that there was a very small ratio of kids to students, so teachers could watch your every move. So you never really got the ability to like act up and like try stuff because everything you did was watched. And so there was a frustration, an isolation, sort of, is there more to this kind of thing? And then what happened to me is as a teenager, I sort of was quite lucky, quote unquote, in the sense of because I was bright in school, I didn't have to study to do well in exams. So I would play video games literally from the second I got home until 1 a.m. Like I'd finish school at 3. I would walk to the shop, buy like junk food, get the bus home, sometimes do my homework on the bus, realistically, and then play video games for like 12 hours with me and my friends, and then go to school and flunk through exams. And I got really, quote unquote, again, lucky because I still succeeded in all my exams. And because of this, and because of the school system's pressure to sort of say like, hey, you need to pick good A-levels, pick good GCSEs, pick a thing that will get you a job, If you are someone that doesn't hit a wall early on in the school system, in my opinion, and you don't fit the sort of criteria of the basic person in the sense of like you don't want to go to uni, you don't want a job, you don't really have a place much in, especially in England. It's kind of like there's not much room for the alternative paths and not much room to mold yourself into a person. So when I was a teenager, I remember the best way to get a response from the teachers was I would just say, I'm going to go to Cambridge. I'm going to study the harder subjects. I'm going to study maths, further maths, physics, and computer science. And I remember I would say that to the teachers and to the parents and to the older friends. I'm going to do all these things. And I remember the response it would get, that like pride feeling of like, oh yeah, man, this guy's going to Cambridge. Oh my God, a school student's going to Cambridge. It's so exciting. Like I remember I went to an open day at Cambridge, like sat with everyone and they were all like, yeah, I'm going to go here. And I was like, yeah, I'd found my little college that I was going to go to. And the secret behind all of this is that I never actually like figured out what I'd wanted to do with my life and what I actually cared about. I just realized that I was really good at like saying things that made other people happy about me and like that made me feel valued, like impressing other people. And there was no thought to my own fulfillment whatsoever, because if I'm honest, I'd grown up in such an isolated and sheltered environment that there was never like this thought of like, one day you're going to be out there in the big bad world by yourself, fending for yourself, and whether or not your parents or your friends or whatever your teachers think you're a good person or not doesn't going to mean shit at the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, all that matters is that you can look yourself in the mirror and like, I enjoy what I do, I'm entertained by what I do, and I'm fulfilled. And if I'm honest, 25-year-old Saul now knows that if that's underwater basket weaving, freaking underwater basket weave away. You know what I'm saying? Like, do that thing. Anyway, so it all came to a head for me when I said in school that I was bright. I am not a genius. I am in no way super intelligent. So I picked maths, further maths, and physics at A-level. And I hit my limit with physics and further maths. So luckily, because I was studying further maths, that kind of meant that I had enough practice with maths that I could do well. But for the further maths and the physics exams, the first year I flunked. I got like a D in both because I just didn't study, because I would go home to study and I would just be like, I don't give a shit about this. Like, I do not care at all. about this. Like, it does not interest me in the slightest. I wanted to make YouTube videos and like go skiing and like make adventure stuff and do backflips and like live that life. But because no one else around me did that, I didn't think that was possible. Like, I didn't think, oh, that's a life I could have. I'd kind of put myself in this identity of this academic person. Like, I told myself that I was going to be like a millionaire at like 22. Who cares? Like, looking back, who cares? Anyway, it all came to a head. And I was super like, already at this point, I was like 16, 17, already ultra depressed, ultra anxious, still can't speak English, and just miserable, like did not see a way out. Like, I didn't know I was experiencing all these feelings at the time because I didn't have words for them, but looking back, it's how I felt. And it came to a breaking point with two things. Number one, I went to see a therapist under the pretense of to learn how to do my homework. And yes, that is actually the reason officially I went to go and see a therapist. So funny, man. So I went to a therapist to learn how to do my homework. And not only that, my head teacher pulled me in for a chat. He was like, Saul, you're not doing well enough in your exams and you're a talented young boy. You know, there were people in class. There was like half my class was smarter than me. Like, I was in a really intelligent year. Like, everyone in my school was a freaking genius. I swear to God, man. Like, it's crazy looking back on it. So I really wasn't like performing the best in my class or anything like that. But he was like, you have potential. You are bright. You are going to have to pull your finger out and start studying an hour per subject every night. So that's 3 hours a night for every subject. So that was like maths for the math physics. I'm going to have to study 3 hours a night. And it was funny because like in that moment, I just got this like flash forward of like, I'm going to have to study at something I don't care about that feels like I'm pulling my nails out, to then go and get a degree at something that I don't care about to feel like I'm pulling my nails out, to then get a job in something that I don't care about that I feel like I'm pulling my nails out. And I just had this like 20-year flash forward of like, oh my God, everything I've been doing is a lie. What the hell? This is horrendous. Jesus Christ. And I remember that I then went to therapy and I was like, I hate my job. I was in school. I hate my school. I hate my friends. I hate my teachers. I hate my life. I hate what I do. And she was like, why are you there? And I was like, oh crap. Like, that was a huge wake-up call to realize like I had free will, like, and I could do this thing. I was 17, but still, like, I had will over what I wanted to do. And it was like the first moment someone had like handed me the steering wheel to my own life. I remember the next day I walked into school and was like, yo, I'm dropping out. I'm leaving. I'm out of this bitch. And I remember like, I was really surprised to see that like, I'd say 80% of my teachers were actually like super freaking supportive and were like, yeah, man, you were miserable. And I was like, but you didn't tell me this. There was a 20% that were like, oh my God, you're throwing your life away. Da, 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 da. But yeah, but there's always going to be a 20% of people that moan. Is there anything you can do? Someone will moan. And I realized, okay, cool. I've just thrown away my entire false identity as a 17-year-old and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And basically what I did when I dropped out of school, the pretense with myself was I wasn't going to sit around and just play video games. Like I was pretty severely not happy, anxious, not really understanding what I wanted from my life, and like just wanted to like go and have fun. Sorry, I realize my chat is probably really loud. So I was very, very lucky basically in that I dropped out when I was 17, but my 18th birthday was June the 1st, 2017, which was also the earliest date that you could sign up to do Camp America. Like my birthday was the day that you could do the sign up for. And I was like, okay. And there was luckily the university I was by, Bangor University, were hosting a conference. I watched too much American television. On Camp America, like what it is. And it's basically an exchange program where British 18-year-olds to 23-year-olds, I think, go and work in a summer camp in America for 3 months. And then you get a free month of traveling afterwards through the US. The most awesome experience ever. But yeah, that's basically what I did. I went and dropped out of school and worked in a summer camp. And I remember I was on a flight to the US on my own on my 18th birthday, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I remember thinking I would be sat doing my A-levels in maths and further maths, and my friends are sat in my exams doing further maths and maths exams right now, and I am sat in an American Chipotle drinking Red Bull, getting a lift in like a Ford F-150 truck that I'd seen in all these TV shows with like this dude that I now considered a brother that I'd never met. And like, I just remember thinking like, oh, that was such the right decision. And basically that was like, if I'm really honest, like that day on my 18th birthday was really the day that my life actually began. Like, and I know that sounds super dramatic and all this stuff, but it's true. Like, those first 17 years, I'd just been being told what to do. And it was like, finally I had the steering wheel, but I had this, like, not only did I have an empty identity, I had this identity that everyone else had put on me. So I spent 3 years, I think, after that, just basically trying to burn that identity down as hard as I could, just travel as much as possible, go on the most craziest adventures. I was already like a fairly sheltered child, so I wasn't really going to do anything crazy. My craziest experience was actually in Camp America. I nearly died, and I don't mean like hardy, like I fully nearly died. I was 1 foot away from getting shot in the head, like a bullet went in front of my face. I'm not going to tell that story today because that's a mental story, but it taught me a lot. But yeah, I had a few crazy experiences. I did ski seasons, the ski season in Finland, Austria. I opened a beach cafe and got on the BBC for it, which was crazy. And yeah, and then skipping forward a bit to when I was 21 and 20, I had hit a wall in the sense of like, this itch to like build something had started, and I kind of had got like, everyone I think experiences this when they go traveling, is you get a bit jaded of having to like not having a place to live, not having a place to like build something, and also just constantly saying hello and goodbye to people all the time. Like that ability, that constant spiel of your life story, you know them for a week and then you say goodbye, it starts really messing you up because you can only have so many whirlwind romances, amazing friendships until you just start getting a bit lonely. And that's what happened to me. I was about 20 and I just 21 and I just realized I'm over this, man. And it was around that point that I moved back home. I got a job at like an outdoor adventure company with Zip World back at Wales. And it was the first time in my life that I really, that was it. I remember I was going to try and go back to uni through an access course. And I had this moment when I almost like went back into education, and I remember the winter hit of when I was 20, and I met this guy called Dane. Shout out Dane and Libby, and they lived in a van, and they'd had some success on Instagram, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to be a YouTuber. Like I want to be a social media guy. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber when I was a kid. Like that's been the dream number one. Like be a YouTuber, and I saw these people that had an ounce of success with it. I was really lucky at that point as well because I'd met Eamon and Beck, the famous van YouTubers, because they'd for some reason driven through North Wales in their van and they wanted to go to Zip World, and I messaged them saying I can get you in, and then we met up and it was like, what? Anyway, the whole point of this was basically to segue to, I was about to go back into education when the day I was supposed to go back to college and university, decided to ring them and drop out again. And I filmed this. This is on my YouTube channel. There's a video called I'm Changing My Life, and it's me doing this. And I decided to go back to Zip World for the winter and buy a van and convert it. And the plan was, and this was 2019, end of 2019, foreshadowing, you probably know where this is going. I had this grand plan to convert this camper van, work through winter, drive through Europe, go on this amazing road trip, and then make a YouTube channel out of it. As you can probably tell, COVID happened. So March, right around the time I finished the van, we got hit by COVID, and I got stuck, isolated back in my childhood home, not being allowed to leave my house, in exactly the same situation that I was in my childhood. Very triggering. Very, very triggering indeed. And what came from it was a lot of pain and sort of old stuff coming up, and I ended up, what happened in the end with that? I ended up kind of waiting it out and really developing this like a new sense of self and a new sort of, it really was like an initiation kind of moment when what happened there was that I remember being like, it was like having the adult in me around all the childhood stuff was A, awful, but B, like I had this moment. I remember I had this one moment where I was like, I still felt this like underlying fear to be the person I always wanted to be. And it was because I'd been told in school, like, if you don't do your exams, you'll die. If you go out of school past 1 minute before the school bell finishes, you'll die. If you do this, you'll die. Like, it's very fear-based. And I still had that internalized. Like, if I break the status quo, I'll die. And it's really dark, but I realize, like, if I continue living out of fear of all this stuff, I'm probably just going to end it all at some point anyway, because I'll just be bored and living in a way of fear, and it's not really a life anyway. So I was like, gonna die if I break rules. Probably gonna live a life that's not worth living if I don't break rules. I'm gonna break some rules. And so at that moment was like a real ritual to myself of like, it's time to go after the life you really want, man. Without forgiveness, without permission, just do it. And I remember in the middle of COVID, I moved to Spain and trained to be a yoga teacher. And I will admit, probably the most fun 4 months of my entire life, most rewarding, like most amazing conversations. I lived in a mountain in like just 20 minutes outside of Barcelona. And I remember like that feeling of my day-to-day conversation being like the deepest emotional traumas, like just about over breakfast. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I didn't know this existed. And when I was bored of like living in the mountains, I could like walk and get the train into Barcelona and experience the city life, which was empty because it was COVID. It was amazing. And if I'm really honest, I don't know what would have happened had that place not closed because the second round of COVID hit. I probably would still be there. No, probably not. But I probably would have stayed longer. But I had to come back. And anyway, this is in 2021, so I was 22. I moved back into my parents' house again, and then second lockdown hit, which was significantly more brutal than the first. It was like, I remember this point, police driving around where we lived, and if you didn't live, if you were further than 5 miles away from your house, they'd fine you and send you home. Crazy. And at this point, I had a camper van, so I made some new friends with Matt and Georgie. Shout out. There were some big climbers, and they were awesome, and they still are. Matt and Georgie. Matt lives in Scotland. Georgie lives in Sheffield now, somewhere. Shout out to you both. And yeah, it was an amazing time. I made some other friends and kind of like healed a wound that I had with Wales, but also really realized that I had to get the F out of Wales. I'd honestly made this new dream about wanting to escape to go to Costa Rica. I don't know why. Or no, it was Europe and Costa Rica. And anyway, there was a real discrepancy at this point, which was England had really lax rules over COVID at this point, and Wales didn't. Wales was still really strict. And I remember at one point just being like, I'm in a camper van, I have money, I'm just gonna drive somewhere and just wait. And I was gonna try and make a break for the border in Spain. And I remember driving, me, Matt and Georgie and some other friends drove to Bristol, and we camped out in Bristol. And it was the most weird, like 2 months of like purgatory, like living in a random town in COVID where everything's closed. I lived in Clifton, which is, if you don't know, is actually now a really famous spot for van lifers. In my opinion, not van lifers, people that just have a caravan that they've now taken the wheels off and they just live on the road. So I felt I didn't really want to be plugged into that group, but I was there. And at this point, I was so anxious and desperate to get on my travel adventure and everything and go and meet people and trying to force my sort of view on the world. I couldn't really be patient. It sucked because I was like 22 and I wanted to I wanted to live life. Felt tired of it. Felt like it was being on pause. Anyway, and I remember that Spain ended up bullshitting with all of its like maneuvers and everything and closed the borders late. And I remember my van broke down and I got it fixed. And I just thought, I'm so done with this, man. I'm so done with this. I am just going to go to Devon and let it all blow over. Like, I'm going to sit in a campsite in Devon and watch the world go by. And that's what I did. I drove to Devon and I spent a week there. And I just sat on the same campsite. I don't even think I left the campsite in the end, and just watched the world go by. There's a beautiful rock in the distance. I need to go back there, actually. That'll be a video I make one day, going back there. And there was a beautiful rock in the distance, and I just watched it for like a whole week. And I just watched all of this pressure that I was putting on myself to live this amazing life tomorrow on hold. And I think it was funny. It's like how once I let that pressure subside, it kind of all just started to unravel a bit. And like, I just started to relax and sort of let life come to me. And it's really strange what happened next. Which is, once I did that, I thought, oh, you know what? I'll check out Cornwall. I'd heard of this place called Watergate Bay. And I was like, oh, it's a famous surfing town. My dad had told me about it. And I was like, yeah, it's England. It can't be that crazy. No intention of being there more than a day. And because I'd now in my mind had this plan of like, I was going to drive to Cornwall, come home, drive home, sell my van and move to Costa Rica. Because I don't like doing things in halves, apparently. Anyway, I ended up driving to Newquay and can think of nothing short of falling in love at first sight here. I'm in Newquay now still. Fun fact, spoiler. I drove here in my van. And I remember there's a Sainsbury's here, which I can actually see from my window. It's still open. There's a Sainsbury's here. And I remember two people crossing the road with surfboards in their hand. And me being like, sold. This place is awesome. Like, the people were really cool. I remember I bumped into some people. Shout out Ryan and Chloe. I think they live in Australia now. But we ended up meeting in a van in Watergate Bay car park. Playing football together. And just like had the sickest time. And I didn't end up staying that moment, but I ended up going home, rebuilding my van, selling it, and going to Costa Rica. That Costa Rica story was the most insane experience again, because I was on the red list at that point, and I don't know, like, a stubborn brain decided to do that. I did end up going on a crazy adventure there, which again I won't go into here because I'll be here all night. That's another one. But on the trip to Costa Rica, I realized I'm so done traveling for a bit. I just wanted to have a life where I could build something, to have meaningful friendships, meaningful places. I wanted to learn to surf, and I was like, get me to Cornwall, man. And so that was it. The 9-month trip to Costa Rica took 2 months. I came back home and immediately moved to Cornwall. Literally 3 months later, I had moved to Cornwall. I'd moved to Newquay. I moved on January 1st, 2022. It is now currently January 10th, 2025. So I have been here for 3 years. The original plan was to be here for 6 months and then go to London to be a filmmaker. And I just fell in love with it here. I realized that this place was the stability that it needed to be for me to put the pieces of my identity that I'd burned to the ground back together and figure out who Saul really was and what he wants to be in this world. Plus, I really wanted to learn to surf. And it's been awesome. I gotta say, surfing's the best sport ever. Like, just is. It just is awesome. Like, I've been sick this week, which I'm thankfully not been able to cough this entire episode, which is brilliant. And the waves have just got amazing as of today. And I'm thankful that I think tomorrow I might be able to surf for the first time, which is awesome. Like, it's all I can think about. And yeah, that's my story leading up to now. The story of Cornwall's been amazing. I started off as a Domino's delivery driver. I then got a job at a coffee van at South Fistral, which was the best job ever. Like, I was paid to sit at the beach in a coffee van in the summer, just chatting to people, basically, having a great time. And that was the best summer. That was one of the most fun summers ever. It was a revival of my beach cafe, I suppose. I then got a job at a film company as an intern, which was awesome. It taught me everything I needed to know. Left that job and started my own film company, which was a very trying period because Cornwall, what I didn't learn was winter Cornwall basically dies. And yeah, that kind of building the film company and learning that world sort of became a big challenge for me, which kind of peaked when last year I got to make a documentary in Africa and sort of had this massive realization whilst filming that, which was this was a dream that I thought I had, which was making big documentaries for like these companies and stuff. And I realized on that trip last year that my actual dream was that I wanted to be a YouTuber still. And I wanted to make my own content and my own stories. And it took me still another year of work on my confidence and fear and everything to just start putting stuff out there. And that's this. That is this now. That is the Saul's Journey podcast, the Saul's Journey Instagram, and the Saul's Journey YouTube. Is that it's all led to this point now, which is this year I want to create a series sharing my journey to living the best life possible, the most fulfilling life possible, exploring what that means in psychology, philosophy. What is the best life? What constitutes the best things in life? I want to interview people who think the same. I think I'm starting to get ready to depart Nuki. So some adventures on the temporary front are coming. But yeah, we've got some really exciting stuff coming. In future episodes, I'm going to be talking about, how to achieve your dreams, the fear of failure, overworking, perfectionism, breakups, going through life stories, my week. I'm really excited for this, man. And if you have any questions or stuff you want to share, funny memes, I don't know, just send me them. So let me know what you think of this podcast. Let me know if you found this interesting. Let me know if you found it boring. I'm excited, man. So yeah, that's my story, and thank you so much for listening. Hopefully we're doing one of these a week, maybe two. And they'll get sharper. They'll definitely get sharper. I just needed to put something out there. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. I hope you're enjoying the winter. I'm finding it quite difficult. The weather is dark. Is that a word? The nights are dark. It's cold and wet and raining, but still alive. And that's a good thing. But yeah, thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next episode.